Okay, so for this Prussian turn, the Prussians are going to press the attack with the cavalry here, I think. They kind of have to now. That's going to involve a little bit of manoeuvring to avoid the village, I think, but if they can get in soon before the Allied infantry come to help, that'll be fine. This unit needs to back off, I think. If it moves back, it'll get out of the artillery range and into the wood. I think probably here, maybe they need to be a bit more aggressive and take on these Grenzers. Meanwhile, these infantry will move forward to try and join into the fight in the wood. With the activation of this unit over here, I think probably this artillery will be better left here. I think it's in. Yes, it's in range. It's in range with the Grenzers, so it can fight the Grenzers, and also it can possibly help repel these if they come forward. So we'll do the move then, and we'll see how it gets on. Okay, so the Prussians here wheeled forward, which is an action test. They passed. That's an action test they failed on a 1 because they improved mobility, which they passed, but they're still not actually close enough yet to fire. They will be under fire from the Grenzers though. The Grenzers got a longer range. Here, the Prussian infantry had to wheel backwards, which is a tricky manoeuvre. So they've improved mobility, which gives them, that means they fail on a 1, but they're under fire from 2 guns, so that gives them an extra +1 to each of those. So they fail on 1, 2 or 3. They rolled the dice and got 6, so they succeeded in wheeling back. The cavalry here moved forward. They did a little bit of a wheel to avoid the village, but they passed with no problem. That just leaves the infantry column here. Usually, in these times, what units would do to form from column into line was they would move like so, like this, to say maybe that position. Then they would change into line, with the column would be something like that down here, and they would then change into line facing that way. The Prussians, though, if they wish, can, and they're the only units that can do this, to people with improved mobility, the only units that can do this, which is normally the Prussians, they can go forward like so and then form a column like that by spreading out to do that. I think that's going to make more sense. They'll have a nice combat formation there if they do that, so they're going to attempt to do that. So that's a standard action test. Having improved mobility just means they can do it. They can't do it any better than anybody else. They can't do it on failing on a 1. So standard mobility test is anything but a 1 and 2. So the first unit tries to move forward and fails. It gets a 2. So they have their commander here. He uses one of their pips to give them a second attempt. And this time they scored a 3. So they move forward and form into line. Like so. The unit behind will also have to roll, so it also fails on a 1 or 2 because it's also got improved mobility. This one rolls a 6, so it moves forward and into line. Okay. The commander still has one of his action points left, so he's going to try and get these to do a second move to start them moving in towards the forest. So that is because the second move is a standard action test. So they need to roll and not get a 1 or 2. They've succeeded. So we move to the edge of the wood. I'm going to reposition the commander. I'm going to put him over here because he might be useful for action tests on these guys. Okay, so that's the end of the Prussian turn, but they can now do some firing. So the artillery is in range of the Grenzers here, and so that can hit them, but that's long range fire, and because it's only 1 gun, it's just going to be bombarding, which means they need to roll to move if they're attempting to move. Meanwhile, in the forest, we come out here, we can see the Prussians and the Austrian infantry here are in firing range, so the Prussians can now shoot at the Austrians. So the Austrians have to, because they are in musket range, they have to take a morale test, just like the Prussians did. So we'll go through the factors. The first thing we need to do is we need to roll for the morale of the Austrian unit. This Prussian unit is going to they are elite, and then some of the units, like for example this unit, are all raw. But most units are a mixture of units because a unit is a brigade. So maybe some units in the brigade are good and some are not so good, and so they are variable. So what they are is they're called trained, and then a rating from A to E. And A class units have a better chance of being elite and no chance of being raw, whereas E class units have a good chance of being raw and no chance of being elite. And then C class units, they are in the middle. So if this is a C class unit, like for example this unit here is a C class Austrian unit, they would roll a d6, so they count as trained C, and they'd roll a d6. If they got a 6, they'll fight the battle as elite, as in they're having a good day. If they roll a 1, they'll fight the battle as if they're raw, as in they're having a bad day. This is a mixture of Grenadiers and Hungarians and other things. So this is trained B, so on a 5 or 6 they count as elite, on a 1 they count as raw. So they roll a d6, 4, so the unit is trained, it's just a bulk standard normal unit. So we can now add up the factors. They would have got a bonus for being elite or raw, but they're not. So they get +1 because they have rear support behind them from this unit. They get -1 because they are small, so that's straight dice. So the Prussians, you also compare firing rank, but they are the same firing rank, so it doesn't make any difference. So the Prussians roll 2 dice, and the Austrians roll 2 dice, and they need to get 8 or more. So they roll 2 dice. So they've got 7. One of the things that some units have got, the Prussians in particular, is rapid fire. And what rapid fire means is that if you are firing with a unit with rapid fire, you can make the unit re-roll 1 of dice. So in this case, it could re-roll 1 of dice, probably re-roll the 4. The problem is, of course, if the Austrian player rolls a 5 or 6, he will succeed and not take a hit. Whereas if he rolls a 1, that's still a score of 4, that'll be no better. So in this case, it's not worth making the Austrian player re-roll. But if, for example, they had scored, for example, there, 7 like that, then clearly re-rolling the 6 would be to the Prussian player's advantage because they might get a lower score. In this case, we won't, so the Austrians just take 1 hit, and I'll put a white dice on there which signifies they've taken 1 hit.